Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Norma Juarez, and I work in the Alumni Relations Office at UNC. Thank you for joining us today for the Alumni Career Panel, Careers in Education. We are honored to be hosting such an amazing group of alumni professionals from across the United States. A couple of housekeeping items before we begin. This event is being recorded and it will be available on demand after the event. And I will be sharing the link to our website where that will be available. 2, I will be sharing panelists' LinkedIn profiles information and contact information in the chat feature. So make sure that you open that during the event so you can have access to that information. And once we are done with panelist introductions, I will go off screen and return at the end, towards the end of the event so I can give a closing statement. Now, please help me welcome our panelists. Panelists, again, thank you for being here. Can we please have you introduce yourself by stating your name, title, company, your UNC degree, and by telling us a little bit about yourself. Adrian, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Yes, thanks, Norma. My name is Adrian Bergenfeld. I graduated from UNC in 2004 with my bachelor's in communication and journalism with an emphasis in PR and advertising. I'm currently the Assistant Director of International Student Services at the University of California, Santa Cruz. I've been at UCSC for a little bit over 7 years, but I've been in the field of international education for over 10 years and all over the country. I'm excited to be on the panel and speak with you all today.
Thank you. Kerry?
Good afternoon. My name is Kerry Calma. I graduated from University of Northern Colorado in 1998. Got my bachelor's in math with an emphasis in secondary ed. I also pursued my master's degree there and got my master's degree in educational technology. Currently, I'm the school renewal specialist here in Hawaii for the Lelehua complex. I oversee 10 schools, 7 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 1 high school. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. Erin?
Hi, my name is Erin McKinnon, and I graduated from University of Northern Colorado in 1988. I currently work at Farmington High School in Farmington, New Mexico, and I am the technology arts teacher. I'm a digital arts teacher. I also have a master's degree in integrating technology into the classroom, and I got that in 2006. I teach 3D animation, computer graphics, digital photography. I'm the yearbook advisor. I have lots and lots of different hats at the school. And I'm also the head girls and boys swim team coach. And I did swim for the UNC Bears, go Bears, back in, I think it was 83 to 87. Then I coached that last year. Really excited to be here and to answer all your questions. Love the fact that you guys are going into education, and I wish the best of luck to you.
Thank you. Stephen M.
My name is Stephen Maholic, and I graduated from UNC in 2003 with a Bachelor of Arts in Social Science, emphasis in elementary education. Stayed for another 2 to get my graduate degree, interdisciplinary degree in ESL and math. And I am currently the co-founder, STEM coordinator, and board president here at All Nations Community School. We're in the Woodlands, Texas, and this is our 3rd year. So it's been really exciting to be a part of a school from the ground up. And yeah, I'm just excited to be here and just help everyone out to get started with their career in education.
Thank you. Nancy?
Hi, I'm Nancy Wendirad. I graduated in 2005 with a bachelor's in communication, Spanish, and an ESL endorsement. I went on to grad school for Spanish masters at UNC and University of Salamanca in Spain. I currently teach Spanish and English as a second language in Fort Lupton Middle School. I'm also the LULAC, which stands for League of United Latin American Citizens Advisor, and I'm the coordinator of a summer enrichment program for migrant education. It's really an honor to be here, and welcome to all of those in education. We need you. So you need to join the force. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Now I am going to hand it over to Stephen S., who will be our moderator this afternoon. Stephen?
Thanks, Norma. I'm Stephen Seadorf. I'm the Executive Director at Frontier Academy. We're a K-12 charter school in Greeley, Colorado. I graduated from UNC 4 times, the bachelor's degree in 2005 in music education, master's degree in special education in 2007, doctorate in special education with an emphasis in gifted education in 2011. And then I went back for my educational specialist degree in educational leadership and policy studies in 2014. So I am a UNC Bear for life. I even stick around and have been teaching in the educational leadership and policy studies graduate programs for the last 5 years. So we are pleased to have everybody with us this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. And we are going to jump right into the questions here. Our first question for the whole panel is, how did your UNC experience help you launch into your career and arrive at your current position? And we're going to start with Nancy.
For me, going back to school as a non-traditional student, I was raising my family, working full-time, and going to school. So being part of the Cumbres cohort, as well as the Stryker Institute, that made my experience at UNC great. You know, I wasn't the typical college student trying to go to parties because I was older. And so I was very focused on my education, but having those cohort groups, that was the great support that I needed since I said, you know, raising a family, working, and trying to keep my head above water. So that was the amazing part that kept me going.
Thanks, Nancy. Let's go to Stephen.
So for me, launching into my career, you know, I can think of 2 things right off the bat. One was just being a part of residence life, everything from an RA to assistant hall director to a hall director. And it really just gave me the confidence in knowing that I just need to go for it. You know, you're not going to know until you interview for a position or if you're going to get into a certain program. And it was during the time of my my final year in graduate school, and I knew that the teaching fair was being offered there on campus by the career services, and I decided to volunteer. And it just by luck, I was there helping out in the international teaching aisle. And coming from a small town or a small island, if you want to call it, I had no idea that someone could go and teach internationally. So for me, going to Colorado was a big step. And here I was signing up to go to South America for 2 years, and 9 years later, after having visited 36 countries and just saying, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. I've started an international school here in Texas. So it's one of those things I would encourage you, look at the opportunities that you have in front of you, even if you're going to try for it by yourself, just make the most of it. You never know who's going to be a part of that organization or who will be able to create a network for you that you will come back to later on.
Thanks, Stephen. Let's go to Adrian.
So I think for me, the biggest impact that UNC had on me was just getting to know people from other countries. We didn't have a lot of international students when I was at UNC, but it was still something that I knew I was interested in, meeting people from all over the world. I had the opportunity to study abroad when I was there. I also was very involved on campus, whether it was alumni services, if it was as a tour guide. And I just overall really enjoyed my time at a university. And I think that even though working in higher ed wasn't my original career plan or job goal, that I found my niche where I belonged and where I needed to be because of the community that I built at UNC and the support that I received. And I realized just how impactful it was in creating a base for me to go on and become an adult and succeed professionally.
Thank you. Let's go to Kerry.
So being from the island of Maui, I I was kind of sheltered growing up. Didn't leave the islands very much. So the experiences I got at UNC was not only about my education, but also learning about what was out there in the mainland compared to what I was brought up with. So one of the biggest things I think that helped me educationally though was that UNC put me in the classroom right away so that I could see whether I wanted to do elementary or high school. And I realized that high school was where I wanted to be. And it gave me I think being at Northern Colorado, although I was worried when I first got up there, they gave me the knowledge, understanding, the support, and the confidence that I needed to become a teacher. Never thinking that I was going to become an administrator later on, but took me down this path, and this is where I'm at right now. Northern Colorado definitely was one of the best educational experiences I've had in my life. So even currently in my position, I just think back to those experiences and how I can duplicate that kind of culture or feeling wherever I'm at, or even at the schools that I work with. Because I really believe that it's the relationships and the communication you have with people that truly make the schools effective. And I think that's what I experienced at Northern Colorado, and that's why I try to bring that back wherever I'm at.
Thank you. Erin?
So I came to the University of Northern Colorado from Ames, Iowa. So I had kind of a culture shock there for a little bit. But I grew up in a college town, which was at Iowa State University. And so many of my peers were going to Iowa State, and I absolutely did not want to do that. I didn't want to just have a bigger high school. And UNC was a perfect environment for me. The instructors were so good. The guidance that I had from the counselors and stuff, they just put you in a position to succeed. And I really, really appreciate that from University of Northern Colorado. I too was very, very involved with, I already told you I was a swimmer, but I was also involved in the University Program Council. And I don't even know if that still exists there anymore, but it was such a great program and a great network to get real world experience. And so, gosh, I left University of Northern Colorado feeling really prepared for the real world.
Well, thank you. For me, it was really the professors and relationships I had with them. I was in several different programs, and I just realized pretty quickly the expertise that was available at UNC with all of the different professors and research areas that they had, and forming relationships with those people that have lasted years now and into a decade plus that I continue to lean on. I can go back to those people and have great conversations about my career and the career of others to help them out. And that's been really cool to have in our backyard. I've stayed in Greeley, and it's benefited me well into my career to keep those relationships. And it's interesting to see how they support new teachers coming into the profession. So that's been pretty fun. Our second question is, what qualities will help me set myself apart from the other candidates applying for the same positions? And we're going to start with Erin for this. Okay,
so you just got to get out there and volunteer. You got to go to schools. You have to be a part of your community. I think when you go into a new job or you're interviewing, you've got to say, I'll do what it takes. You got to put yourself in the position where, yep, I can do that. Sure, I can do that. And sometimes you get a little overwhelmed, especially that first year of teaching. But I think if you just make yourself a part of the school and a part of the team, I think that sets you up. It sets you way above anyone else. Any experience that you can get, maybe you go and you volunteer for a science fair or a science Olympiad or something like that at a school. Just get out there, then you have that experience. I think that's something that's so important that sets you above everyone else.
It's a great start. Kerry, go ahead.
Okay, so to kind of reiterate what Erin is saying, your application for your first job actually is right now. When you're in college and you go to the different schools, you want to be able to put things on your resume. You want to be able to get the references that you need for them to speak speak positively about you. The biggest thing is when applying for a position, you want them to see really who you are, yeah, and your core values, your core beliefs. One of the things I always tell the candidates who apply is your reputation will precede itself. So your first job to me is your interview to your next job, because if you don't do a good job on the first one, it's going to be hard to get the second job or the second position, because no one's going to want to write a recommendation for you, or no one's going to want to give a positive reference for you. One thing I really believe is leading by example, making sure that what you say, your actions also follow. That's a big thing. And I think one of the things that sets me apart as well is my willingness, or the willingness to have a growth mindset, to kind of wanting to always learn, reflecting on the mistakes you're going to make, because as a teacher or administrator, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Right now, this COVID situation is a good example. We go through a lot of things here at the schools, and there's no right or wrong, because nobody's has experienced it before. So we make a lot of mistakes, but all we can try and do is reflect on it and try to fix the mistakes we made, or move forward and try to address the issues that keep on coming.
Thanks, Gary. I think you have a great point about the one job being an interview for the next job. And we talk about that a lot in my school, that, you know, STEP students and teacher candidates are there for a semester-long interview, and that's how they should treat it, and that's how we should treat it, and making sure we're getting to know all those people. So great point. Let's go to Nancy next. Same question.
Okay. I think I would just like to say, I'm going to second what Kerry said. He said it beautifully, but absolutely, for me, my number one policy is to be honest. Before a professional, I'm a human being, and I like to see my colleagues, my students. I always say, you know, I'm a human being first. I make mistakes. And when I make them, I apologize. You know, I don't try to blame other people for them. If I make the mistake, I own it. I'm very honest about it. Be open-minded and allow the students, you know, in the classroom, besides being an educator, we're often parents, we're nurses, we're psychologists, we're everything. And be open, not be afraid to be there for the students, because in education, number one, we're there for them. And then to be open to have those candid conversations with the parents as well.
Well said. Thanks, Nancy. I did want to remind people that if they have questions, to go ahead and put them in, and we'll try to get to your other questions as well. We have just a handful of preset questions for you. Our next one is, how do you, or how have you, built or strengthened your network in education? And for this, we're going to start with Adrian.
I'm going to add really quick to that previous question on how to set yourself apart, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
As a person who's been on more hiring committees than I ever want to admit. I think a big thing is to know your audience and know the school you're interviewing at, and know what they're excited about, and share that excitement, and be able to ask questions about if they've received an award, if the person you're interviewing with is passionate about field mice in Botswana, be willing to talk about it. You know, the big thing for a lot of us who hire, we want you to have at least some knowledge base, but a lot of us are willing to train you. What we can't do is we can't make that personality and that character fit if it's not going to. And the way you're going to be the strongest team and the most successful in your career is to have that team you connect with. And without that passion and that connection, it doesn't matter if you're the smartest person in the room. You can't carry any job alone. And so I think that's important, and just something for me that I look for more and more the longer I'm a professional in the field. So building off of that, how do I build or strengthen my network? Know what your professional networks are. Find out what that professional network is, how to get involved in it. Are there entry-level volunteer positions? an example for me is in international education, our professional organization is called NAFSA. There's district levels, there's regional levels, there's national levels. Get yourself involved, build that network. This goes back to my whole thing of you can't do this alone. You need people, you need to be able to ask questions, you need to have the support. Just a funny little story. Stephen M. and I were working closely on this alumni project, and I haven't seen him since 2004, but I vividly remember the collaboration we had working with the alumni and working with Sherry Mosier, who was director of alumni at that time. And to me, that was step one of building my network, of meeting other alumni. What are they doing? I think another big thing is know that whatever you get your degree in now, that doesn't mean you're locked into that field. That's simply a springboard for you to do other things with. So if you're a biology major and you always want to teach biology, but in 10 years you don't want to, figure out how your skills are transferable, because they are.
Great, well said. Stephen M., go ahead.
Yeah, so how do you, or how have I built my or strengthened my network in education? And I think it goes back to, you know, what UNC really did for me, and that's just going for it. I mean, any school, even your first school that you become a part of, you have to look at it as, you know, on a staff of 50 or 60 educators and administrators, that's your network right there. And it really starts with taking the time to talk to others. You're going to have experts in, you know, whatever skills there are, and it takes time to ask around, and you have to be, you can't be afraid to step outside of the box and just really get the help that you need. And it also lends itself to hearing other people's stories. The craziest story for me, and you know, when in my 4th year in education, I'm all the way in the Middle East in Dubai. Come to find out, there was another UNC alum at my school at the same time, and we probably were a part of the same circles. We could identify some of the same people. So it really just depends on what you're willing to seek out, and look at every opportunity. I think Kerry said it well. Your first interview is really setting yourself up for the next, because you never know. Within education, it's a huge network, but when you realize all the connections that are there is when you can really expand and look forward to what's next, or how you can, you know, look down your career 10 years from now and start planning for that. So make the most of it.
Nice, thanks, Stephen. Erin, what do you have to add? Oh, you're muted, it looks like.
I know I have barking dogs today. For some reason, they never bark, but today they are. Yeah, the one thing I wanted to add, you guys said all that very well, is you cannot be scared to go out and get yourself out there with the professional learning committees or organizations or anything like that. There's so much, you never stop learning. You have to be a continual student of the game, is what I like to say. I'm the coach of the game. I continue to watch videos, and I continue to learn better, how I can do better in every aspect, whether it's my teaching, my photography, swimming, whatever. You just have to be willing to continue to learn and get out there and see everything that you can.
Absolutely, thank you. We did have a question come in, so thank you for that. Question is, any tips on getting over interview jitters, especially when attempting to show your personality in an authentic way? I can kick this one off and then open it up to the group. I think a lot of the interview jitters come from just the fear of the unknown, right? And so I would say research what you can, practice what you can. I even like doing a dry run to wherever I'm going to make sure that I know where the place is located, how long it's going to take me to get there. So I don't have some incident on the day of the interview and I show up at the wrong place or something like that. I would suggest, you know, practicing interview questions that you're expected to have, show up early, take all of the control back that you can actually have as a start. And I don't want to get too far in because I want the rest of the panelists to answer if they have suggestions. So what do you think about getting over interview jitters? Who would like to jump in?
I think think you just need to go very prepared. I think one of the best things to do is to research the school, find out who the admin team is, who some of your leaderships are, what the focus is of the school. Maybe they have a 90-day plan. What's their goal? So I think that's something, if you go in with more information, you go in more confident.
Good.
I agree with Erin on that. I was a part of a hiring committee, within the math department, and, you hear all the ins and outs, and, your interview starts the moment you set foot in that school. So while you're waiting at the lobby in the front, the front office staff is already screening you, and, word's getting around, believe it or not. And the principal that I had worked for, she knew within the first 2 minutes if she was going to hire you. So you got to think about how you are, promoting yourself, your non-verbals, your mannerisms, everything. It comes down because you are representing the school that you're applying for. And, that school is the heart of that principal and that team. I agree with Erin. The more research you do about the school beforehand impresses the committee. And from there is where you will let your personality shine. And I mean, the confidence that comes from knowing and seeing on the looks of, the interviewing committee that you've done your research is when you'll feel at ease, and then it'll just come naturally. So do your research. It starts from the moment you set foot in the door, and, just give your best and try to practice with friends, family, look at, whatever questions are out there that might be asked, and just the more practice, the better.
Thanks, Stephen. I also want to throw in that everybody's going to be nervous. I actually appreciate it when a candidate shows up and they're nervous, because it shows that they're taking the job seriously, right? That they actually want this position. If you're really nervous, and I've had candidates that are literally sitting at the table shaking, and they just acknowledge that, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I'm so nervous. It's just that this job means so much to me. I'm so excited for this opportunity. It's okay. Talk about the elephant in the room a little bit. If you're that nervous that it's visible, just acknowledge it. Sorry, I'm nervous. This means a lot to me. Take a breath, calm yourself down, and see if you can keep going. It's okay. It's good to me that everybody's going to be nervous for that job. Anybody else want to jump in on this one?
Yes, I would like to add, what everyone said, be prepared. I think often we tend to be our worst enemy. We feel that when we go to interview, we act confident. That may be misinterpreted, but be confident. And like everyone said, practice. Therefore, that confidence will feel natural as you're interviewing. And yes, allow them, like I said before, to be human. If I may share a little personal joke, I am going through a stage in my life where I'm experiencing what I like to say power surges. Well, if I'm doing an interview and all of a sudden I'm having this power surge and I get very red, I don't want that to be seen as I'm very nervous or I'm being, feel underconfident. So sometimes I have gone for interviews, not necessarily that I'm looking for another job, but just for practice in case something may come along. And I have put, like I said, the elephant out of the closet, out of the room, and, just say, well, I'm experiencing some biological issues. And if I start fanning myself, it's not that I'm nervous. I just need to do that. And then kind of people laugh and then you move on. So again, just be yourself.
I'll add something really quick. I think something that intimidates people when they're interviewing is they're looking at the people who are interviewing them and they're expecting smiles or nodding or this welcoming behavior. That's not how everyone is who is interviewing other. You don't know if they're on their 50th interview of the day. So don't judge yourself based on your interviewer's facial expression or lack thereof expression. You don't know what they're going to do after you leave that room. So don't ever give up, regardless of if somebody looks at you like they hate what you're saying and they don't agree. You commit to who you are, you stay true to yourself. And if that doesn't fit, then you don't want to be there.
It's a great point. All right, so we're going to go on to question 4 here, which is, what questions should I or shouldn't I ask a hiring committee during an interview? So this is questions from the candidate. And we're going to start with me actually on this one. So I have a short list of questions that I think you should ask. Do ask things about their culture. What's the culture of the school like? What's the culture of the company? Ask what they're working on, what their school goals are. So you know kind of what the background is, any challenges that they've had, what they're proud of as an institution, why they like working there. Ask what other aspects of the school that you can be involved with, such as clubs or athletics, anything like that, to show that you're not just focused on your classroom. I would be cautious in that one a little bit for a first year teacher, so it doesn't look like you're trying to spread yourself too far, too thin, too fast, I mean. But it's good to show your diversity with that. And one question I really like is to ask them to describe their collaboration between teachers and special service providers, such as special education, CLD, counselors, to just have them explain that and see how much of a collaborative atmosphere they have at the school. My quick don'ts are, don't ask about salary or benefits or working hours or other logistics, time off, things like that. Those are all questions that you can ask when they offer you the job before you accept. Say, you know, thank you for offering the position. I just have a handful of questions, and those are times for all of the logistics. I have some more, but we'll turn it over to Kerry. Go ahead.
So those are all good questions to ask. I guess when I interview people, the biggest thing I can say is to do your homework before the interview, because a lot of times people will ask questions that they could have found out on the school website, or they could have found out on their own. And if you are asking those kind of questions that you could have found on your own, it's kind of showing me, or I interpret it as maybe you didn't do your homework enough where you could have, maybe you didn't do your homework enough where you didn't research about the school and you don't really want to be here. So that's how it can be interpreted if you're asking questions that you can actually find out yourself. I agree that you shouldn't be asking questions about your pay and all that kind of thing. So I think Stephen came up with a whole bunch of questions that are really good, not things to ask and not to ask. So
thanks, Kerry. Nancy, do you have anything to add here?
You basically covered it all. So off of the top of my head, I cannot think of something else, because it's been said already. So I don't want to be repetitive.
Sorry about that, Nancy.
No problem.
I do have one to throw in there. What I feel is almost starting to be an overused question is, how do you support new teachers? Now, this is a great question because you want to know how the school is going to treat you as you come in, especially as a brand new teacher. But I would suggest pairing it with something specific to a goal that you're working on. How do you support new teachers, especially with classroom management? Because that's a goal that I have as a new teacher. Be specific in asking that question, because so many teachers coming out of fresh out of school, it's almost like they've been trained. Find out how they treat new teachers, find out how they train new teachers, but make it specific to you is my only recommendation with that one, if you're going to use that question. We have a couple more questions coming in from the audience. This first one, Adrian mentioned transferable skills and career changes. What advice do you have for professionals who want to transition into a career as a teacher from a non-education profession? Adrian, do you want to start tackling that one?
Transition into
a career as a teacher from a non-education profession.
I can't answer that one since I'm not a teacher, so I'll probably put it over to one of you who is a teacher who has somebody who is working for you that was not the traditionally trained.
Very good.
So
like Erin.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Erin.
My sister had a coffee shop in Winter Park, Colorado, and that was her experience. She worked at a bank and she had all this life experience. And just short story, my father is in assisted living here, and we have to start taking care of him. And I'm like, Shelly, you got to come help me. So she came in with all this business experience, came down, got the gifted job at the high school, and she got something called an ALP, which is an alternative licensure professional license. And so she went and got that, and she loved it. And by having all that world experience, she's a really, really good teacher now, because she can relate to so much of what has happened in the world. And so there's all sorts of programs out there that maybe you do have a biology degree and you went into the world and it wasn't something that you really wanted to do, and you go, I think it'd be kind of cool to teach high school biology. Absolutely. Those teachers, those principals love having you come in with all that real world experience.
Yeah, I can echo that sentiment. I've had great success with people who have joined the education profession as a second career, and it's worked really well. They've done it in a couple of different ways. One, kind of like what Erin is talking about, through an alternative licensure path, where you can study through, in Colorado, they do it through BOCES programs. And you can work with them through one school year. And at the end of the school year, if that's successful, you can apply to get your license. So that's definitely an option. Or you can go back to school in a more traditional form and obtain your license through a school like UNC, I would suggest, through their like post-bac programs or things like that. I actually suggest the second route because it's more formal training and actually teaching practices. And the BOCES programs are great, but it's kind of trial by fire. They throw you into the deep end and see if you can swim. And most people swim, but some don't. And it's a hard year. So I would just be cautious with that. Our next question from the audience is, how have you navigated the COVID pandemic? What is some advice you may have for future teachers? I assume that's related to COVID. So I'll give a brief introduction here. The COVID pandemic has been an unbelievable challenge on schools system-wide. All age levels, all states, it is a significant challenge. And so I think as we were just about to start this panel, we were talking about the flexibility needed in education. And to be a teacher, you have to be extremely adaptable, extremely flexible. And that's really the name of the game right now during COVID, is we are flexible at every turn. There are new changes that come about every day, at least every week, whether that's changes from the state level or local Department of Health. There are constantly things that we need to be changing as teachers and administrators. And so how do we navigate it? By being flexible. And how do you navigate a normal school year and be successful as a teacher? I would say by being flexible. So
I think my husband, we last March or May, I don't know, every month is one from now. It's been a long spring break, right? So my husband said it best. Everyone right now is a first year teacher. And that just like put it in the, we're like, oh my gosh, it is so true. Engaging students right now we're at the most creative place that all teachers are, to try to get all students to get them engaged in doing online learning. We started out the semester, first quarter at my school, with a huge percentage of students that were failing at least one class. So we kind of had to put the brakes on and say, okay, how can we do this? And we're on, I think, our third schedule for kids to get into the Zoom meetings, to just keep them to get their work turned in. So that is definitely a huge challenge. I live in the heart of Navajo Nation. And so we have a huge challenge with getting internet access for a lot of those students. And so I can't imagine, that's just one element of the puzzle here, but just continue to grow with your education and figure out what kids like to do and how you can get them turning in their work. The other thing that we've had to do is totally slow down. Usually I'm usually so much further ahead right now in teaching at such a different level. Right now, it's like at a snail's pace.
agreed. Anyone else want to jump in on this?
Yes, I would like to reiterate flexibility, absolutely, patience, compassion. We need to believe, we believe that the well-being of the student is more important than the academics at this point. And flexibility, I cannot say that enough. We have gone through 3 schedules changes. I am teaching online, in person, and then sending packets home as well. So 3-dimensional, I call it.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go on to our next question, also from the audience. And it is, what tips do you have for a teacher candidate resume? How long should it be? What should I include or exclude? Stephen or Kerry, do you want to start with this one?
Sure, I'll start. Really find out what's relevant. And, you know, I know one of the other panelists said it well. If you do your research on that school and there is something, you know, that really stands out, that you're passionate about, that you have experience in, even if it might not be completely related, put it on that first page. That first page, again, is like, that's your foot in the door. When you step into that building, you want to impress them by what's on the first page. I think if you go beyond two, that's a little, it can be a little long-winded, because like Adrian said, you don't know if it's the 50th interview, but you want to make it memorable. You want something to stand out. Definitely put as a recent graduate going into the profession. GPA is great. What degree you have. Everything you put on there should be relevant.
Good, thanks, Stephen.
So for a resume, I think what Stephen is saying about it shouldn't be more than a page or two. That first, I forget what it's called, the first part of the resume that has like it's almost like a personal statement about why you want that position, knowing why you want it and your belief behind it, for me, tells me a lot as to who you are and why you're applying for that position. So that, to me, that one statement that you can make as to why you're applying for it is important. For me, I do like to have the references part, because then for me, a big part of finding out about a candidate, especially when I'm down to the last two or three and I'm unsure about who I'm going to hire, I definitely want to check on the references that are on there, find out, knowing what schools that person has been at, and not only calling the ones that they put as references, but what schools or places you've worked prior, allows me to follow up to find out more of your character and whether you fit in at the school that you're trying to apply for.
I think another thing for resumes is be intentional. Don't just put things on there just to fill up space. If you don't have enough room for 2 pages, it's okay. Don't put that you walked a dog for 9 months and that you feel that skill's transferable. I mean, be aware of what you're saying, because for the most part, when you're having your resume reviewed, we're doing it rather quickly. We're looking for very specific points that we're looking for in a candidate. And if I see a lot of fluff in a resume, that makes me start thinking of, how does that person work on a daily basis? Is this what a conversation with them is like? Is this how long it's going to take me to accomplish XYZ? Because they feel the need to touch on every single thing. So for me, I want to see what's related. I want to see when you did it. And also, I want your willingness to address gaps. If there was a 5 years where you did nothing, be prepared for that to be asked, because we want to know, was that your choice? What was it? We're not trying to ask you to be uncomfortable, but we need that full picture when we're hiring.
Good point. One last piece, I would say very specific to like a teacher fair or job fair, where there's hundreds of candidates, and hopefully at some point we get to do this in person again. I would say keep it shorter, because we're going to go through even more applications that day, even more resumes. So I would say keep it to a page or under if you can for a teacher fair. And a unique suggestion is, on the backside of your 1-page resume, put a picture. And I'm not talking about like your Instagram picture, but like a professional picture, because we see so many people in a day. It's pretty easy to go, wait, which candidate was that? I don't quite remember. But if I can turn your resume over real quick and see a professional picture, it's going to give me a better shot at saying, oh yeah, it was that person. They gave a great quick interview here. I want to call them back. So I actually had that situation come to me from a teacher fair several years ago. I was like, why'd they put a picture on the back? Like, that's weird. I don't care what you look like. And it's not about what you look like. It's about recognizing which person was which, because we need to go through a lot of people in a day. So we're going to go on to question 5. Question is, I'm interested in becoming a principal, assistant principal, or in pursuing a different administrative role in education. What is the best path for me to accomplish my goal? And let's start with Stephen.
So what's funny for me is I never wanted to be a principal. And even though I'm a co-founder of a school, board president, I still don't call myself a principal. I enjoy being a teacher. I look at what our principal goes through on a daily basis, and I don't want any part of that. But in my journey through education, this being my 15th year, you never know what opportunity you're going to come across, or someone that's going to speak truth into you and inspire you to go for something that you never thought about. So really within that network, look for people who are going to challenge you in a way that you can grow professionally. And it just really, it all boils down to what is it you want to get out of your day. I think, as I'm thinking about the pandemic, you are entering education in both the best time and the craziest time. And I can't think of any other time when educators are needed more than right now. Teachers are leaving the profession just because of how crazy it is. Like Nancy said, you're preparing for packets for people who don't have internet access. You're teaching kids virtually and in person, and you have to be flexible. And people will see that value in you if you are flexible. But just remember, you're entering this profession to make a difference in the lives of the students. Let them be the ones to go and change the world and make that impact.
Nice. Kerry?
Okay, so just like what Stephen is saying, I never got into I never went into education thinking I was going into administration. I always thought I was going to be a math teacher. I love teaching math. Started off teaching math on Maui, and then I moved to Oahu. And I just loved teaching math for the first 7 or 8 years of my life, or 7 or 8 years of my career. And then I was asked to become a math coach. And then from that opportunity, I became the department head. And from there, I was asked, okay, so we have a VP that left, so we need you to fill in and kind of do a VP position as well as a curricular coach. So then I said, okay, I'll do it as long as it involves math. So I took it. Well, I think it was their way of tricking me into going into administration, because next thing I knew, the year after that, I was told that I was going to be the VP, and I had to go through this program. Here in Hawaii, you have to go through a 2-year program to get your license, as well as the college classes that you have to take. But what I did find helpful in taking the path that I had was, I did find it helpful to be a teacher. So be a classroom teacher, having the instructional background, the curricular background, before I became an administrator, because there are some people who've gone through the counseling route. So they were counselors or they were non-classroom teachers prior to becoming an administrator. If you don't have the classroom background, it can be a little more difficult, because now I know here we are emphasized to be instructional leaders. And it becomes, if without that background, if you might want to make sure that you have opportunities to work with students in a curricular setting, so that it gives you that foundational knowledge on how to support schools instructionally. Definitely, if you're gonna want to go into administration, some things that I think about that helped me broaden my knowledge of the school and what it was about was to be a class advisor, do extracurricular opportunities. When you're at those opportunities, try to, if you know this is something you want to do, be there, but not only be there to socialize, but be there and really be observant of what's going on, what all the different role groups are doing. Because when you become an administrator, you have to know all the different role groups, all the different operational things, instructional things, special education. Your plate becomes really full. Definitely have a conversation with your current principal, supervisor, because I think that helps. And have an honest conversation about things that they feel that you need to improve on before you go into administration. Another thing to keep in mind, I guess, and it really hit me the last 2 weeks or last 2 months actually, was I just went from a vice principal or assistant principal position here at the high school. High school I used to work at was 1,700 students. So I went from that to becoming now the school renewal specialist for these 10 schools, kind of like a curricular position for the 10 schools. Administration is not always school level as well. Yeah, so there is some administrative positions that where you might end up being a specialist for special education or for instruction or coaching. So there's multiple avenues that administration can take you. It's not always just school level where you got to be a principal or a assistant principal, because I never thought that I would have been in this position that I am today.
Well, I'll quickly wrap this one up here. Apparently we have 3 school leaders in here that never thought they'd be school leaders, because I never thought I would want to be a school leader either. I kind of fell into the opportunity after being a special ed teacher for 7 years, and then I was a principal for 7 years. For me, it's start with the classroom, build a solid skill set in the classroom. Like Kerry was saying, you have to have those skills as a teacher first to build that credibility. Seek out leadership opportunities within your school, much like Kerry was saying. Within that, I would say volunteer to be on committees, volunteer to lead a committee. It's not until you can lead a group of people, go through a consensus building activity to really know, like, is this for me? Do I really want to be a leader? And if you can get through that activity and like it, maybe leadership is for you. Find a good graduate program that fits your needs, such as UNC. I got to put the plug in there for UNC. That's part of what we're doing, right? And invest in a quality program, and then get out what you put into it. So really invest your time into it as well. And also observe other schools. So don't just be confined to the one school that you work in. Go and visit other places. See what leadership looks like there. See what classrooms look like there to build your diverse set of experiences. With that, we've got 5 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we get to our final question. Let's take 30 seconds or so, each of us, to give a final word of advice for UNC Bears currently seeking a position after completing their education degree. And we're going to start with Adrian.
Every opportunity you have at UNC, make those networks, make those connections, get to know your faculty, and then don't be afraid to reach out to your extended alumni UNC network. I get really excited when anybody from any of my alma maters reach out to me. I had somebody who just reached out. I set her up with 5 different people. She got a job with Stanford University as an international admissions office. I've never met her. That's what a network does.
Nice. Kerry.
I'm going to say that at the high school that I was at 2 months ago, we had actually 5 UNC graduates here. So it was, and I can honestly say as a vice principal, I had to do their evaluations, and they're 5 of the best teachers I had at the school. So UNC prepares you well. Don't when you apply for your first position, be confident, because UNC definitely, leaving UNC with your degree, you're gonna feel like when you get there, you're gonna be better off than some of the other teachers that are actually applying to a different position. So I really believe in the teacher and the professors and the faculty at UNC, and I will always continue to support UNC no matter where I'm at.
Right on. Erin.
So I want you to go out there and get through your first year of teaching, and remember that University of Northern Colorado is behind you 100%. That first year of teaching is a huge learning curve, and you just have to, again, work with people, ask questions, people that have a little bit more experience than you, but you can do it. You can do it. And the other thing I'm going to say is, Greeley is a wonderful place. Colorado is a wonderful place, but don't hold yourself that you have to work in Colorado. Get out there and see the world.
Right on. Stephen.
Yeah, a bit of advice, go for it. I do not regret the decision I made to teach internationally as my first teaching post. And it was, you imagine your first year of teaching, try throwing yourself in or a country, not knowing the language. That was the craziest thing I ever did. And I would do it all over again. So if you know you're someone that wants to travel or just go and explore, think about, as a teacher, the benefits of just living abroad and having everything paid for and being able to learn a new language, around the world, not just here in America. Teachers are needed. And if that's where your heart is, just know that the opportunities are there. I would have never known that if it wasn't for the Career and Services Department at UNC. I'm also here if you have any questions. And I think you guys have picked the right career to go into. So I encourage you. The first year is crazy, but we've all been there.
Nancy.
Yeah, so definitely reach out to the network, be confident, but at the same time, be humble. By that, I mean, ask others for help. If you want to go to a school that is not the right fit for you, and then don't go there just to take the job. As much as they want you, you need to want to be there. If you speak another language, seek those opportunities. And like Steven said, go abroad. That is, I tell my students in Spanish, I said, if you go to a Spanish-speaking country, you're gonna pick up more in 3 months than 4 years in this. I used to teach high school Spanish before middle school, but you will learn more if you're immersed in the culture and the language. So just go out there and be yourself.
Good suggestion. I would say seek what you want and work hard to get it. Teaching's hard. It's an incredibly hard profession, but it's also incredibly rewarding. You got into this for a reason. So work hard and stick with it. There's a lot of people here to support you. There's a lot of people in the Alumni Association to support you. And education is one big family. Obviously, several of us have pointed out that the first year is hard. I'm going to say the first couple of years are hard, but it does get better. And again, it's very rewarding. So reach out for help. We're here for you.
Thank you so much to all of our panelists for joining us today and for sharing your UNC experience, your career insights, and all of your great advice with everybody watching. It was an honor to host you today. To everyone watching, thank you for spending this hour with us. I hope you learned as much as I did this afternoon. I look forward to seeing everybody in any of our upcoming career panels that we are hosting this fall. To see a detailed list of our upcoming events, go to our website, www.unco.edu/alumni/careers. See you all soon. I hope to stay connected and go Bears. Thank you.